Good evening. My name is Ben Maini, and I am the acting commissioner tonight. Happy New Year, everyone. This meeting is going to be called to order. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Monroe. Today is January 9th, 2024, and it is approximately 7:04 p.m. I will take a roll call so that we have everyone on record. Again, my name is Ben Maini, Commissioner. I'll ask the other members to introduce themselves.
I'm Ron Tomac, member. Sorry, I didn't mean to step over you. Go ahead.
Okay. Christina McPhail.
Sarah Harris.
Okay, great. So the meeting procedures for tonight. Please note that this meeting is conducted utilizing electronic equipment in compliance with the state law Public Act 21-1. As such, this meeting is being recorded and will be available to the public in compliance with state law. If you are attending remotely, please remember to mute your microphone unless speaking. Anyone participating remotely should state his or her name and title at the outset of each occasion that such person is speaking. All votes taken during which any member of this body are participating remotely shall be taken by roll call unless the vote is unanimous. The chat feature is not utilized nor considered during this meeting. In the normal course of our meeting, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for the public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. I will ask that the applicants keep their presentation as concise as possible. The commission will then review the town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After all comments pro and in opposition or of the general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Please keep comments or questions direct, or a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during their response. So other applicants that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception that there is no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. So tonight we have 4 members of the commission of the board here, and to proceed, all 4 votes will have to be unanimous in order for the approval process to occur. I will ask each applicant if they are comfortable with this format, that they'll need a unanimous response tonight, or they'll have an opportunity to present their case at the next meeting when all 5 board members are present. So I think, Bill, if you can make the read the agenda items and the 2 cases that we're about to hear.
Do you want to do the introduction of Ms. Gallagher, please? Item number 3 on the agenda.
I don't have any information on that. I'm sorry.
Okay. So Kathleen Gallagher has joined us as the Planning and Zoning Administrator, and she's on the call this evening. So please give a warm welcome to Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hello.
Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you so much.
Our public hearings tonight, the first one is ZBA 2024-01, file number 1422, concerns 269 Purdy Hill Road, and the application is for proposed variance of section 3.5.5B to reduce the minimum lot size for an ARR development from 10 acres to 9.011 acres. Sound 2 Home Buildings LLC is the owner, and attorney Dominic Thomas is the representative.
Good evening, everyone, members of the board. Welcome, Ms. Gallagher, to Monroe. My name is Attorney Dominic Thomas from the firm of Cohen and Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant. This is and I've done quite a few variances. This is a somewhat unusual variance and an unusual hardship. The property located at 269 Purdy Hill Road is a age-restricted development that is been constructed to a great extent and has some remaining units that are ready to be finished and be sold. However, this is on septic, and there are certain state rules and regulations that have impacted it. While I was not involved, obviously, with the original application, in order to comply with the 10-acre requirement in the regulations, the applicant at that time took the parcel of land and also bought an adjacent parcel of land that had a single-family home on it. And it might be better if I could, am I allowed to share screen? Whoever's the host, can I share screen?
Yeah, I'm looking for how I can make you a shared screen.
You go into security, I think it is, and just allow screen sharing.
Under security.
If you click under his name, next to his name on participants on the list, you can to make them a co-host so they could share.
We already have a co-host. We have Kathleen and I both listed as the host.
You can
Do
have
you-
more than one.
Okay.
I'm able
also-
to screen share.
Do you have the option? I changed the screen share settings to be all participants. Did that do the trick?
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Beautiful.
Yes.
I'm glad
Okay,
somebody
so this-
understands the technology.
This is the exhibit that was filed with your zoning application. This is the development, Prestige Place, that exists. This is the single-family home. You follow my cursor that was added to the property to make the 10 acres. To blow this up a little bit, you can see that parcel B, that's parcel A that was added. Parcel B was 9.011 acres, and that is the main area of the development. Parcel A is the let me move this a little bit over here. That has a single family home on it. As you can see from the application, in order to comply with the current state regulations, the single family home would then have to be demolished or disconnected from its own septic under the current I'm sorry, not the current, under the statute that existed prior to last July 1st. On July 1st, as a result of last legislative actions in the last session, that statute was amended, and it would actually allow, upon the amendment, it would allow the single-family home to remain. However, the regulations will not be done until 2025. And even though the Planning and Zoning Commission gave an extension on the demolition, it would mean that the house would still have to be disconnected in order for the State Department of Health to give approval to the local health department to be able to authorize the continued sale of the houses that have been developed, the townhouses that have been developed in Prestige Place. Because of the limitation, and this is why the house would have to be disconnected or demolished, because of the limitation, they will hit the bedroom limit under the existing old regulations, I believe in February or March, when they have some more sales in the area. So the hardship basically that's occurring is not their doing. The hardship is that the state regulations, which will allow this house to remain, and in fact, if they waited, would allow the project to be expanded, but not until the regulations are in effect in 2025. So after some discussion with the land use department and everything, it's the desire of the current owner, the LLC that is owned by AJ Grasso. It is the desire at this point to find a way to separate it so that the single family house can remain, be on the septic, and then be reused as a single family home. Now, the most restrictive, and I say most restrictive way to do it, is by virtue of the variance, because the variance would only apply to this parcel. Certainly the Planning and Zoning Commission wouldn't want to reduce the 10-acre size in its own regulations because of other developments. They want to maintain the minimum 10-acre size. But in this situation, given the unique circumstances, the unique layout of it, it suits the variance would then allow the parcel B to remain as it is with the development, and then parcel A would no longer be part of the ARR. The applicant would have to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and remove parcel A from the ARR zone. And with that being done, what will happen is the property can remain a single family home, be used as a single family home as with this neighborhood. And yet the parcel B can be the Prestige Place, can be finished and sold without any problems with the Department of Health. I should, by the way, note for the record a couple of things. Number one, since I want to let you know that I have uploaded, or not uploaded, but I emailed to Christy Riley in the Planning and Zoning Office the notices that were certified notices that were given. We received all but 3. I have also today. I also emailed 3 letters from neighbors, and one of the 3 letters from the neighbors is from a neighbor that did not return a green card. But there are 3 letters from neighbors encouraging this board to approve the variance, because they would like it to remain a single family home. They would like it to remain a usable single family home, and a property that is appropriately kept up as a single family home. In addition, one of the letters, and I'm not sure if you have them, I can certainly screen share them. I have them also ready to upload. One of them indicated that she's in a butter and really would like it to be a single family home, because it would function then as a 2 things. It would function as a buffer, single family buffer to the project, number 2, and this would also prevent the ability of the ARR to expand when the regulations went into effect. So I do think it fits. I do think the uniqueness of it is a variance. The variance is because of the even though there's a change in the statute governing the number of bedrooms on septics, in fact, the regulations won't go into effect for 2 years. There's no point in letting the land and the house remain empty, vacant, or having to demolish it at this point, when in fact, when the regulations go into effect, it would either A, be able to be part of the development, or better yet, return to its status as a single-family home. So with that, I conclude my portion, although I want to point out, since I'm relatively new to this whole project, that you have AJ Grasso and Mark Mazzola, who are both intimately involved with the project and can also correct or elaborate on some of the statements I made with respect to the Department of Health issues. Thank you.
I have a quick question. This is AJ Grasso for Sound Home Builders. I'm the applicant. I just wanted to double check to see if in fact the board has received the 3 letters from the neighbors, or if Dominic should introduce them into the record and possibly read them or screen share them.
I believe that they were received by staff this afternoon, and they are uploaded onto the website, but obviously were only uploaded this afternoon after they were received. But yes, we do have those letters.
Great, thank you.
AJ, is there anything further you want to say about the Department of Health, or did I cover it?
No, so AJ Grasso again. You covered the currently when it was originally approved, there was 50 bedrooms allowed. They've increased the size of the septic system from 7,500 gallons to 10,000 gallons. Although they haven't rewritten the actual regulation, which will probably increase the bedroom count on a single parcel from 50 bedrooms to somewhere in the mid 60s. If you were to go, for another 1/3 of the amount of septic area. So that's really that's what we'd have to be waiting for. And I was told by the state that the regulations are likely to be written sometime in 2025, but there's no guarantees. They're understaffed and overworked. So that's really what led to this.
So is parcel, I have a question. This is Ben Maini. Parcel B, is that a new development?
I will.
B, okay.
I can address that. So parcel B being the 25 units at Cutler's Farm Crossing. So currently we've closed on 19 of those units. We're going to be closing on the remaining 6 within the next 3 months. After the 22nd unit is closed, we would either have to disconnect the house at 269 Purdy Hill Road, and then wait until the state approves until the state actually writes the regulation, which would allow the increase of bedrooms. What I'd like to do is put a punctuation mark on this, have 269 Purdy Hill Road remain a single family home. And then there'd be no desire or interest in coming in at a later time to demolish that house and, possibly put in more units. The Planning and Zoning Commission has already approved a 3-year, the ability to keep the existing house up for an additional 3 years. But that's what we're trying to, put a punctuation mark on now. So that's what we're in front of the board for.
But even though the house could stay up, it could not be operational. It could not be connected to a septic at this point.
So I guess my question is, what's going in parcel B, the new area? In the map?
Oh, no, that's not a new area. Parcel B is this whole area.
Oh, okay.
Parcel B, I'm sorry, I know the way this is the map I was given, that looks like a property line that is not a property line. The parcel B is this entire area. That's the 9.01 acres. And this is, I believe, and Mr. Grasso or AJ can tell me, this is just, I think, a landscape buffer.
Yeah, so that's a AJ Grasso again. That's a couple of things. It's a part of it's a buffer, part of it is the septic systems for the upgradient units. So there's nothing additional that's going to be added to either parcel A or parcel B.
And
Okay.
this, I believe, is the building setback along it.
Correct. That's a 50-foot set or 100-foot setback. I can't read to the
It's 100 foot, but I do have one question. The property line you're proposing to go back between the two lots, is that the same property line that was there previously?
The only thing that's changed in that is that little jog that you see there, because in order to have a septic reserve area, that's the area that would be a septic reserve area without encroaching on the wetlands. So that's
That-
what,
That would adjust your 100-foot setback just a little bit in that area. I don't think you would have issues, but it wouldn't be as straight of a line as what the setback is showing. There'd be also a little jog in that setback.
that's correct.
And what's going into parcel A? Is that just the, is there something going in there?
No, so
The
parcel,
single-family home is here, that it will
Right.
stay a single-family home and will be able to connect to to stay connected to its septic and then be reused as a single-family home.
it'll be able to be continued, it'll be continue to be used as a single family home.
Correct.
It's a
But
relatively,
it would no longer be in the ARR zone.
it would go back to the existing zone, which is a 1-acre zone. There's been a wetlands approval already granted if it were to be subdivided. And the health department, there's an email that basically says it can be, there's a ability to have an additional, the septic system would work. You just have to do, A, B, and C, and it wouldn't be an issue to have a septic with a reserve area.
This is Sarah Harris. Question for you, Mr. Grasso, just sort of related to my understanding of the issue. You mentioned that the state would be approving the 21st unit. So, and that you needed to roll off parcel A so that you can proceed, but that's only one unit. What happens afterwards so that you can get the rest of your units approved? I'm trying to understand the health department.
Certainly. So the regulations, when this was originally approved, had a 7,500 gallon system, which allowed a total of 50 bedrooms. All 25 of these units are 2-bedroom units. The existing house is a 3-bedroom house. So so the problem right now is prior to the new rules being written, there's still there's 50 bedrooms allowed. So once we got to the last building, which is 3 units or 6 bedrooms, that's when we would be over the limit of the 50 bedrooms.
I see.
That-
Thank you.
That's how that falls into place.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Ron Stelmack. I have a couple of questions, I guess. First, presently, that lot is conforming, correct? You have a 10-acre lot that is conforming and is an ARR zone.
Correct.
All right, so when everything was laid out 2 years ago, it looks like the additional property was purchased 2 years ago to meet the AAR zone. The intent then was to remove that single family unit so that 3 condominium units could be enabled. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if the state health regulations were not changing in the future, you most likely would have proceeded with the original plan with a conforming piece of property under AAR and remove that single residence to add 3 additional residences in the complex. Is that correct?
So the way it would work is the AAR zone allows for up to 50 units. The problem is on one piece of property, at the time, you could only have 50 bedrooms. So there's really nobody building 1-bedroom units. So therefore, it was kicked down to 25 units.
Okay.
If this property now was approved, once the regulation would be rewritten, there would probably be the applicant, the original applicant, or me, if I were the applicant back then, would have then determined how many more units, because the town allows 50 in the regulation, how many more units can fit into that parcel if the state sanitary code allowed, let's say 62 to 65 bedrooms. There would be additional units down at the bottom. Or there could be additional units asked for once the regulation is actually written as well. Planning and zoning has allowed the building to stay up now because of the fact that the law has been changed, but the regulation has not been rewritten.
If they're under the original approval, I believe this building would have to be demolished. Isn't that correct, Mr. West? That without a change in the state reg or anything, the original approval anticipated this single family home being demolished.
That is correct.
Which is sort of an unnecessary removal of we read the paper all the day about housing shortages and everything, and it's sort of foolish to take away a perfectly good house, especially in a situation where it can be maintained with the adjacent one, but under the new regs. But under the old regs and under the old approval, it would have had to have been demolished once they reached their limit.
Is there anyone living in that house right now?
So originally it was allowed for somebody to live in there until the 7th building was finished. So rather than get myself into hot water on this, we made sure that the person who was living in there recently moved out about a week and a half ago, just because I didn't want to be in a situation where we had somebody who didn't necessarily want to leave, and then we couldn't close, we're contractually obligated to close units 23, 24, and 25. So I wanted to make sure that didn't become an issue. So if we had to disconnect the septic system, we could do that. So there is no one currently living in that house.
Okay.
Ron,
Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I've got this is Sarah Harris, another question. This question is for the town. Do we have any statement or feedback from the health department?
When we spoke to the health department about this application, they just reiterated what has already been said, which is that if the proposed development and the house were both going to stay, it was going to hit a threshold that required additional septic design. And therefore, the original application proposed that the single-family home be demolished. Even if this is subdivided, the single-family home can remain because now it's on a different lot, so the bedroom count doesn't go into the original item. So from a health department perspective, they don't care if it's subdivided or not. All that matters to them is how many bedrooms. So if it is subdivided, the single family home can stay. If it's not subdivided, it has to eventually be demolished. They are concerned about keeping it disconnected because that's really hard to regulate. So that's something that would have to be worked out if this does not get approved and it's up for the next 3 years and things like that. We still have to make that connection together. But the health department, all they care about is that if we're going to keep it under this threshold, then it matters how many bedrooms are on the property. So if it's subdivided, that solves their issue. If it's not subdivided, then the house does need to be demolished because the septic can't be part of the total calculation.
Thank you.
So the variance would allow this property to be subdivided?
The variance allows the single family home to remain. And allows it to be subdivided, correct? That's the goal by the applicant, is my understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The goal of this entire variance is so that they have what they need in order to subdivide the property.
Correct. Yes. We subdivide the property without making the ARR non-conforming. With the variance, it would allow us to do that.
Is there any? Okay, great. Any other questions from the board? Any?
Hi, Ron Stomack again. Quite candidly, this really feels much more like a need for a health department variance than it does a zoning variance. And as Attorney Thomas pointed out at the beginning, this is definitely unique. Do we have someone from planning and zoning who might wish to comment on this? My general sense is that the Zoning Board of Appeals has some latitude. It also has some restrictions. Among those restrictions, explicitly in case law, it says, I could almost quote it, financial considerations cannot be a factor in this, right? And you would have to demonstrate a no alternative condition that would create an unusable property to really justify a variance. So what I'm presently looking at is an effort was made to bring non-conforming parcels together to create a conforming 10-acre ARR. And the plans were to proceed with removal of one dwelling containing 3 bedrooms to enable to have that replaced by three additional units that would then be given a certificate of occupancy because the health department would clear it, right? So this is getting really long-winded. I guess my general sense is this doesn't really seem to fit the turf of the Zoning Board of Appeals so much as it would fit some appeal process in the health department. As a practical matter, tell me if I'm wrong, there is nothing preventing the original game plan or the original business plan of going forward if that take that single residence down and obtain the health department approval for the additional condo units. Is that correct?
Yes, but I think you can infer that Planning and Zoning Commission's desire with the regulation change not to get rid of a house, and that they extended the demolition 3 years to go beyond it, while they had no ability to do that. And second of all, there, to my knowledge, and having dealt with the health department before, there is no variance procedure in the health department to vary the health code. As a matter of fact, I was involved in Monroe with a gas station that had was going to be turned into a convenience store and gas station on Monroe Turnpike, I believe. And the health department came in, and the state health department came in, and based on the well and everything, indicated that the party had to hook up to city water. And we said, well, we can put the well in a no, you have to hook up to city water based on the situation, based on the testing, whatever the ruling was. That's when I got called in and ended off having to negotiate with Aquarian to hook up to city water. So I don't know of any variance procedure that exists in that, but I think you can infer from the planning and zoning regulation that if the statute hadn't changed, I don't know if we would be before you. But even the Planning and Zoning Commission, once the statute changed, did say, well, we'll give you an extension of 3 years, so you don't have to take it down. And so they would prefer that the house not be taken down. And in fact, despite the fact that the health department may have an issue with disconnecting the septic, that may be the only option, because the health department has really nothing to say about it. So in fact, the entity that can resolve it by keeping the house based on the new statutes is the ZBA. And it is, when I say it is the most restrictive way to do it, in that it impacts only this situation. It does not impact any AIR parcels. It does not set any precedent. It does not change the zoning regulations. But in this unique situation, given the septic rules from the Department of Health, given the changes, and given the, I think, inferred position of the Planning and Zoning Commission, well, we'll let you, we won't make you demolish it right now. They changed it and said, no, you can demolish it in 3 years, meaning maybe then in the regulations, you get the new regulations in effect, and maybe you can keep the house at that point. Or expand the development, but I think their intention was you can keep the house. So I think you can infer that planning and zoning would prefer the house be kept. And there is no variance procedure that I'm aware of in the Department of Health that would allow this to take place. The only place is here.
The property, the existing house itself, if it were subdivided, basically the state health department would then, it could happen today because we're allowed the 50 bedrooms even before the regulations written on the existing property where all of the 25 units are. It would in fact eliminate the need for a health department variance if the health department couldn't grant a variance. There would be no need for a variance. The test holes were already done on the where the existing house is, and a septic system's been designed. So it could be a house tomorrow if it were to be approved.
Okay, Ron Stelmach again. What would happen if we simply waited for the health department regulations to catch up and be completed in 2025, next year?
On the town side, we would have to confer with the health department to see if they would be willing to only disconnect the house as compared to demolish the house in order for them to operate the last final unit simultaneously. The issue is that if we just wait for 3 years, once they finish the last 3 units that we've been discussing, now they're over that threshold that requires additional permitting on the state level. So although it seems like, oh, we'll just disconnect the house and then the septic's not part of that calculations, our health department, Town Monroe's health department, would have to confirm that, because I know that their initial interpretation is no, it's too hard to regulate. If something is connected or disconnected, it's too easy to make that connection again. Maybe there's some other avenues and way for us to be able to regulate that, but they would have to weigh in on that request.
And even if simply disconnecting it was found to be sufficient to allow completion of the 3 condominium units, once the regulations went into effect, that dwelling would now be in an ARR zone. Would it not have to be treated as age restricted in addition to the condos?
We have not looked into exactly what that would look like, but you are correct in raising that point. Now you have a single family residence on a lot that originally wasn't approved and was not thought through as it would relate to those regulations. I would have to do a little more research to see what the implications of keeping that would be in an ARR zone.
I suspect,
And
I suspect
if
the
it remained-
subdivision, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
No, also, if it remained in the AR zone, even with the wetlands and everything, you could probably fit another. Well, you could certainly potentially fit some more development, maybe at least one more set of triples, one set of triples in there. Because it's still part of the AAR zone, and once the regulations change, you have more bedrooms, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. And I think the neighborhood would prefer to remain, as from the letters, the neighborhood would prefer to remain as a single family. And I'm not sure whether the local health department can say, well, we're not sure we can monitor a disconnection and somehow overrule and say, because we can't monitor it, you have to demolish it.
I
Because
think
right
the
now
issue is
plan-
that was part of the original approval. So again, I don't want to speak on behalf of them, one direction or the other. All the
Right.
point that I'm making is it would be something that the health department would have to look into. What's that avenue and how does that work? And has there been
Right.
precedent set, things of that nature? So I'm not stating one direction or the other. All I'm stating is we'd have to do some original
Right.
correspondence.
But I mean, the other factors that the ZBA looks at are the neighborhood and the impact on the neighborhood. And I think that, from the letters, but also this is not something that's certainly out of character. If the variance were granted, what would remain is not something that's out of character with the neighborhood. It's completely in character with the neighborhood. A single family home.
It would appear that 2 years ago, everyone felt it would be okay to remove that single family dwelling.
The Planning and Zoning Commission did, but I wasn't around at that point arguing.
Yeah. No. I'm just, I'm trying to see,
Yeah.
find a solution for everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
the goal of keeping that as a single family development is noble. But it's housing, it's a single family house. The question becomes, okay, there are a lot of noble causes. What's happening here? And we had a business plan that 2 years ago said we're going to remove it. We're going to get a conforming 10-acre AAR consistent with planning desires, et cetera, et cetera. And now the health department changes regulations and we're going, okay, let's actually go back and grant a variance that could have been requested 2 years ago, and that property never had been purchased, right? Parcel A.
I don't, I suppose it could have been asked for 2 years ago, even before the statute had changed. I mean, the whole premise of the original thing was that this was going to be demolished once you reach the number of bedrooms. This whole thing is premised on the fact, this whole variance is premised not on, well, we could have done it a year before, but it's premised on the fact that this is being done because now we've had a change in the statute. And based on the change in the statute and the regulations out and the issue of whether you demolish the house, don't demolish the house, planning and zoning has signaled, that given an extension of 3 years, signaling, they could have easily said no. Planning and zoning could have easily said no. You have no extension, take the house down. That's what they could have done at this point. They chose not to. And I think this board could infer that it would prefer that there be a single family home. The issue of the connection, now you're getting into a situation, whether it's connected or not connected, based on the facial look at the law and the existing regulations. If it's connected, it doesn't have the 3 bedrooms, so it remains an empty, disconnected building for two years or so, 2.5 years or so, within the ARR zone. And then at some point when the regulations go into effect, it either it stays a 3-family home, or it gets, maybe at some point they just knock it down and put a trip in there, another trip or something to go in there, which I don't think, number one, I don't think the neighborhood wants, and I'm not sure whether planning and zoning is interested in that either. So this is the only vehicle that we have to address the situation.
I don't see that, the H.A. Grasso again, I mean, I don't see that there's any opposition from any neighbors. I think, in fact, the neighbors would rather see the single-family home than possibly another triple unit there. It would meet the zoning regulations once the state rewrites the total number of bedrooms.
But you're not planning on extinguishing that lot line after the new regulations are in place.
Well, not if it was a single-family home, no.
Correct. Yeah, once you have it subdivided.
Correct.
And the regulations change, there's,
That's done. We
Yeah.
solved the state, we solved the 50 to 53 bedroom count today, as opposed to waiting until sometime in 2025 or so when when the rule's rewritten. And I think I know the immediate adjacent neighbor, he had sent a letter wanting it to remain as a single family.
So is the applicant done, or is there more commentary? I was going to open it up to public comments.
I think we're done with our presentation. If there's no more questions from the members of the board.
No further questions.
So I will open this case up to the public and see if there's any public comments on it.
Hi, my name is Bill Allen. I own the property next to it, 263 Purdy Hill Road. And I just believe that if we leave it a single family home, which to me seems like the best option, it would keep the neighborhood, the continuity in the neighborhood complete. If you knock it down, it's just going to be an open vacant lot, which again doesn't really look like it would belong there. And then if you put a triple unit in there, say in the future, you're going to have a bunch of units up on the hill and then a buffer zone and then 3 more units, and it would just not look right
with the rest of the houses. Yeah.
That's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
Is there any other public comments? Last call for public comments. Any other questions from the board? I guess the one question I have is for Kathleen. These letters, I haven't seen these letters. Are they all in favor for leaving it as a single family?
I
I
can screen
am-
share if you want them.
I'm looking through the files now. You had mentioned, I believe, 3 letters. I only have 2. I have
I
one,
sent one later in the day today.
yeah, I have one
Uh,
from Bill Allen, and then I have another one from Vincent Riccio.
And there is one, the last one. Let me,
So while you look for that, yes, the one from
last one is from Debbie Malwick,
okay.
the one I'm on the screen right now. I mean, I can let you read it rather than me read out loud, but this is the third one that was sent late. This was sent close to 4:30 or so.
And then, yes, the Vincent Riccio is also in support. I do not see the value in removing the home, leaving an empty space and potentially a blight to the area from overgrowth and not being maintained is not desirable. I also think removing a house unit is not needed, and a new modern affordable house in the area would serve the neighborhood better. And then Bill Allen, who's already spoken, also wrote a letter to voice his support of the house remaining a single family dwelling.
Okay. Unless there are any, I think I'm going to close the deliberation on this, or the forum. And then the board will conclude with a decision after we hear the second case. There's a second case, I believe. So if we can move to the second matter.
I have
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second matter is ZBA 2024-02, file number 1423 for 707 Monroe Turnpike. This is an application for proposed variances of section 3.1.7 to permit a maximum lot coverage of 45% in lieu of the required maximum of 15%. Also, section 6.2.4A1 to permit a minimum front yard landscape buffer of 24 feet in lieu of the required minimum of 50 feet. And section 6.2.4B to permit a minimum side yard and rear yard landscape buffer of 0 feet and 5 feet respectively in lieu of the required minimum of 25 feet. The St. Jude Roman Catholic Church Corporation is the owner. The town of Monroe is the applicant.
Good
Okay.
evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Luke, we can hear you. The
Okay,
presentation is going to be handled by Kevin Soley's engineering team, consisting of Luke Morrow.
Okay, yep. And I'm going to keep myself off video just to keep the so I can do a share screen and keep the feed nice and crisp. So give me 1 sec and then I will introduce myself. Okay. Just let me know if you can see that screen share.
Yes, we
Yes,
can see it.
see it.
Perfect. All right. Members of the board, good evening. For the record, my name is Luke Morrow. I am a professional engineer with Soley Engineering, 501 Main Street in Monroe. We're here tonight on behalf of the applicant, which is the town of Monroe, for variances that are going to be related to subdivision of the St. Jude Church and School lot at 707 Monroe Turnpike, adjacent to the town, just south of the town hall complex. So just kind of high level explanation of as to what is going on, and then I'll go into the variances that we're requesting. So essentially, the town's under contract to purchase the St. Jude School building, which you could see here centered on my screen, from the Diocese of Bridgeport, in order to potentially renovate in the future, reprogram, whatnot, as needed. But in order for that transaction to go through for the subdivision, there are some variances that are going to be required because there's no way to essentially subdivide the lot to be in conformance with all the bulk regulations within the RF1 zone. So I'll walk through those variances with everybody quickly, and then we can answer any questions that anyone has. But just to be clear, there is no new construction associated with this subdivision application. It's simply just subdividing into 2 lots so that the town would take ownership of the former St. Jude School building. So the first variance that we're requesting is to section 3.1.7 of the regulations to allow for a maximum lot coverage of 45%. The lot in its current condition in the single lot format, it is non-conforming. The existing lot coverage is 36.9%, where 15% is allowed per code. So there's an existing non-conforming on the lot now. As you can imagine, when you take an existing non-conforming and then we're cutting this up into two lots, in the future, there's also going to be that non-conforming to remain. So the requested variance is for 45% lot coverage because the lot lines, as shown on this plan, are going to result in lot coverages of about 34.5% for the lot to be owned by the town of Monroe, and then 39% or so for the lot to be owned by, to be retained by St. Jude Church. However, there is some possibility in the future due to septic failures or in the need to potentially rebuild that some of this property ends up getting deeded back to the church, to the St. Jude Church. So we're trying to build in some buffer there and requesting that 45% lot coverage to kind of account for that in the future and not have to go back to further request an increase in the maximum lot coverage. That's what that's there for. The second variance we're requesting is to section 6.2.4.A1 of the regulations to permit a minimum front yard landscape buffer of 24 feet. So this is not a building setback. It's a landscape buffer. That is also, as you could see here, is an existing non-conforming. The existing, and I believe this has to do with, if everyone's aware with it, there was a property taking by the state to put in the circle at 111 and 110. And you could see kind of the property line here does some zigzagging and has some jogs in it. So I believe, and I don't know if this was in compliance at one point, but I believe when that taking happened, that's probably how this, we were left with this 24.3 foot front yard landscape setback here. So, so again, a second portion of the bulk requirements that is not, it's currently non-conforming. So we're requesting the variance to 24 feet to kind of memorialize that as part of this, subdivision process as well. And then the third variance we're requesting is to section 6.2.4B of the regulations, which is to permit a minimum side yard and rear yard landscape setback of 0 and 5 feet respectively, in lieu of what would typically be a 25-foot landscape buffer requirement for non-residential uses in a residential zone. So the proposed subdivision line, as you can see here in this dark black bold line, it's proposed to run down the center of the driveway, and and once we got the full subdivision and filing the land records, there would be a reciprocal access and parking easement between the two properties. However, putting the lot split line down the middle of the drive aisle, and then trying to also account for no variances needed for building setback between the church and the school would basically require us to have a 0-foot side yard landscape setback because the property line itself would be located right in the pavement. And then in regards to the request for the 5-foot rear yard landscape setback, that comes into play here. Behind the this is the rectory building over here. You can see on the screen. There would be a 5-foot. There is actually, the way the reg's written now, there is no rear yard because this lot fronts on 3 streets. So there's 3 front yards and there's 1 side yard. So with this lot split, there would be now a rear yard from the Church Street side where the rectory building is located, and the proposal where the new property line would be located would result in a 5-foot rear yard landscape setback. Again, not a building setback, a landscape setback. And the reason this property line is kind of sketched with all these jogs, as you see here, is because the septic system for the school, as you can see sketched out here, needs to be contained on the lot for the school building, along with the per code should be located 25 feet off the property line. So in order to keep the septic 25 feet off the proposed property line is required per code. That's what kind of places, the rear yard setback, or the request for the rear yard landscape setback at that 5 foot, as you see there. So again, high level, 3 variances we're requesting is for a maximum lot coverage of 45%, reduction of the minimum front yard landscape buffer from 50 feet down to 24 feet to address an existing nonconformity, and then to reduce the minimum side yard and rear yard landscape setbacks to 0 and 5 feet, respectively. Again, these are not a result of a new construction. They're simply the result of subdivision lines that are going to be required in order for the town to purchase the school building from the diocese. And we're here to answer any questions anyone may have.
Any questions from the board?
I think I have one. It might not be a great question, but the 0 feet, what would that look like? If it turns out to be 0 versus the 5, is it right on the, kind of on the street, or?
So the 0 foot side yard setback is essentially because the property line that's going to split the church building from the school building would be located kind of down the center line of the access drive that goes towards the rectory. So essentially, because it's in the middle of pavement, you have 0 foot of landscaping. It's just a pavement immediately on each side of the setback line.
So that's on the shared driveway, which
Correct.
splits the church and then to the town property. Okay.
Correct. Yep. So that would start. So here's the entrance drive from the church on 111. So basically, we're as closely as we can, we're going to split the lots right down the middle. So then there'll be a reciprocal access easement and parking easement, so that obviously the church, the town property, and then the church property can use the same driveway, and they could share parking as needed between the 2 uses, as would be needed in the future. So that comes down the middle of the drive aisle till you get to the rear portion of the site, and then it kind of takes a turn so that we can keep that 25 foot side yard setback from the septic system, is what you see all these lines here grayed out. And then we kind of wrap back around to make sure we're incorporating all the septic system components that are to remain for the school building. That's kind of how you see these jogs go up, back around here. And then we go back up until we get back out to Church Street, so that everything else is maintained within the required setback. So we tried to minimize the variances requested as much as we could, but in terms of that side yard landscaping setback, because the lots to be split down the center line of the driveway, it just doesn't allow for any type of landscaping in there.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem.
So the question on the septic, is that one septic system for both properties?
No, so they all have their own separate, which is required by state health code. So the St. Jude Church building, you could see these 4 lines, and that's the primary and the reserve system here. So the way we have the lines drawn, you could see this is the 25 foot side yard setback. So those would all be in compliance with health code. The school building itself, the septic system was built all the way down here, down the bottom of the hill. So hence why the lot's kind of funky looking. But that has to be maintained with the school building as well. And then the rectory also has its own septic system that it would remain as part of the same lot.
Okay, so with this variance, is the town looking to subdivide this property so that it separates the 2 property or the 3 properties, I guess?
Well, so it would be 2. So the church would maintain both the church building and the rectory all on one compliant lot, and then the the town would purchase this northernmost lot. And the reason it doesn't just square off here where my mouse is simply because we have to include the septic on that lot.
So just
And-
to be clear, the variances that are being requested, some of them are for two different proposed lots. So lot 1, lot 2. So you'd be
Correct.
granting a coverage variance for proposed
Both
lot
lots.
1, coverage variance for proposed lot 2. So some of them are dual. I think there's maybe one that's only applicable to one, but like Luke had mentioned about the rear and side yard going down the driveway, you're granting that variance for proposed lot 1, you're granting that same variance for proposed lot 2. So I just want the record and the board to be aware that it's for, some of these are going to be granted for two separate proposed lots.
Correct. That's our request. Yes.
Any other questions from the board? No questions from the board, so I'm gonna open it up for public comment. Any questions from the public or
Yes.
comments?
I'm Karen Culp Coffee. I live at 724 Monroe Turnpike. And I just have like a silly question. You're saying the landscaping and the frontage of 111 there, are they taking any landscaping down? Is that what you're saying?
No, so the existing setback from the pavement, call it to the street line is 24.3 feet, which is non-compliant. So we're just trying to bring that into compliance, but there's no physical construction work, no building, no paving, no landscaping removal associated with this application. It's just for the creation of two separate lots. So
Okay.
all the landscaping you see now will remain in the future. Nothing is going to be changed as part of
Okay.
this application.
Excellent. Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. You're welcome.
Any other public comments or questions? Any other questions for the board? I don't hear any, so I will close this matter for the application. And we will move the meeting towards our next item, and that's going to be the board deliberation of both cases and matters. And during the deliberation, there is no further comments from the applicant or the public. And it's just for the board to deliberate both matters, and we will render the decision tonight. So the first item, I think we have to approve the minutes from December 5th. The December 5th minutes were distributed, and I just need an approval from all the board members.
Yes, approved.
All approved?
Yes.
Okay, minutes have been approved. So we'll move to the first matter regarding 269 Purdy Hill Road. Opening it up for comments from the board.
I have a quick comment. It just seems like, it's a question of time, of changed regulation, catching up with implementation. And if there is a way to save that home and have it usable by someone living in Monroe without detaching it, just because it's caught in this buffer of time where things don't go into effect, I think it's a good idea. That's it.
Ron? Any comments?
No comments from me.
Sarah?
I would echo what Christina was saying, that this is more of a matter of subdividing, and there seems to be more value in keeping the existing home, whether it's from the neighbors or the planning and zoning. And we've gotten, no real pushback from the health department on proceeding with the subdivision. So I'm in favor of this variance.
I tend to agree. I mean, I think it's just a matter of time. We have 3 or 4 letters from the neighbors, wanting us to keep it as a single family. It's there, it's existing, it's been built. Sounds like it's a livable home. It's not something that's, you can't live in it. So I would be in favor as well. Is there a motion on the table? Would someone like to propose a motion to approve?
I propose a motion to approve.
Do I
I'll
have a
second the motion.
So so we can vote on it. I am in favor. So Ben's in favor. Ron,
I'm in favor.
Christina's in favor, Sarah's in favor. So we have a unanimous 4-0 vote for the variance for the first matter. So moving to the second, 707 Monroe Turnpike. I believe there's a couple of, I think we have to break down the variance in, I guess, 3 different sections. The first one would be, I guess I'll open it up for deliberation. Is there any comments from the board regarding the presentation?
Okay, we won't leave you hanging alone there. Basically, nothing changes. We're going to change some property lines, but physically there are no changes that would impact the neighborhood at all. I see no reason not to proceed with it.
I would pretty much agree. So we'll take, I guess we have to take the 3 matters separately. The variance to increase it to 45% coverage.
Mhm.
That's the first one. Do I have a motion?
And just to specify, and I'm so sorry, just to specify, you're proposing to increase it 45% for proposed lot 1 and proposed lot 2.
Okay. So the proposal is to increase the lot coverage for lot 1 and 2 to 45% under section 3.17. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hands. There's got 4 in favor, so that's unanimous. So the second piece of this is section 6.24A. Minimum depth of front yard landscape buffer. Is there any?
Approve. Oh, sorry.
Again, I'm sorry to be specific, and Luke, if you could correct me, that variance is being requested for proposed lot 2.
Sorry, the request is for both lots again.
It's for both lots. Okay, just to be,
Correct.
so proposed
Yep,
lot
for
1 and proposed
for all
lot 2.
3. Yep, for all 3. Yep.
All right, so motion to approve lot 1 and 2 for section 6.24A regarding the landscape buffer.
Motion, I'll approve.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, there's 4-0. So that's unanimous. It's approved 4-0, unanimously. Sorry about that. For the third section, so that's lot 1 and 2. That's the side and rear yard landscape buffer under section 6.24B. Is there any discussion? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's a 4-0 unanimous as well. I believe that closes all the two matters. I don't think there's any other old business to discuss. Kathleen, welcome aboard. Happy to have you,
Thank you so much.
and thanks for joining tonight.
Of course.
Any
Thank you,
other,
Commissioners.
Bill, is there any other matters that we need to discuss?
Not that I'm aware of. Just thank you very much for your time this evening.
No problem. Have a great
Well-
night. We'll see everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good
Take
night,
care.
all.
20 for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn. Approved.
Done.
I did it both.
All right.